Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. Wow, what a night. To the many Illinoisans who exercised their civic duty at the polls or by mail yesterday and throughout early voting, thank you. Thank you for believing in our democracy. Whether you voted for me or not, I serve all of the people of Illinois. It's a mandate that I take very seriously, and I look forward to serving you these next 4 years. During my first term, we have raised the minimum wage, balanced the state budget, got credit upgrades, made historic infrastructure investments, made college more affordable, lowered taxes to help families with inflation, lowered the price of insulin and other life-saving medications, legalized recreational cannabis, while expunging possession charges, which have mostly hurt Black and brown people, protected the right to reproductive health care, and the list goes on. As we embark on a second term, my administration will be laser focused on continuing to rebuild Illinois, an Illinois that works for everyone, regardless of their background or the zip code that they live in. The election yesterday was a chance for Illinoisans to decide who we want to be. Do we want to be the kind of state that provides humanitarian assistance to asylum seekers? Do we want to be the kind of state that prioritizes the mental health and substance use treatment for people who need it most? Do we want to protect women's rights and civil rights and voting rights? Do we want to be the kind of state that leads the clean energy revolution, paving the way for an environmentally conscious and sustainable future? Well, Illinoisans made their decision, a decision that we should be a beacon of hope and opportunity and caring. Yesterday, working families won, children won, those who have been left out and left behind won. Our economy won, democracy won, and I can't wait to get back to work. And with that, it is my great pleasure to introduce my partner and the best lieutenant governor Illinois has ever had, Juliana Stratton.
Good morning. I'm Juliana Stratton. I use she, her pronouns. And thank you, Governor Pritzker, for that warm introduction and for your unwavering leadership. We have the choice to stand on the right side of history, and I echo your remarks when I say we will stay true to that path. I'm proud to serve alongside you to show that leadership means putting the people of Illinois first. We recognize we move forward when we all have the tools, resources, and support to take that next step. I'm excited to continue working for and with the people in communities across Illinois that are urban and rural, and all of which makes our state so vibrant. We'll continue the work by continuing to bring sustained investment in communities that were for too long disinvested. We'll push forward by protecting women's rights and committing to gender equity. We'll maintain a vision that includes every Illinoisan of just and equitable opportunities in employment, education, housing, and other areas that impact our lives. As I close, thank you to all who exercised their right to vote and voted in this election. No matter your vote, we work together to protect democracy, and I look forward to working with you to take the next step during our second term. With that, I'll pass it back to the governor to answer some questions. Governor?
Thank you. Happy to take any questions, Mary Ann.
Governor, was it cost efficient to spend $150 or more million, and how much do you plan to spend on a presidential run?
Well, let's put that last part aside for a moment and just say Illinois is worth it. As you know, that we had two MAGA billionaires who were coming against us, attacking everything that we stand for. They spent over $100 million, and we're not just going to sit and get pummeled by them. We're going to defend ourselves and tell people what we stand for and fight back. And so that's what we did. And we did so in a way that let everybody know what we stand for and why Illinois needs to move in the direction that it will. And overwhelmingly, Illinoisans agreed with us.
And as for that presidential run, how much time do you have to think about it before you make that decision?
I am not focused on that at all. I am focused on serving as governor for the next 4 years. It's really the most important thing to me is we have a lot of challenges that Illinois needs to overcome. We've got to work hard on it, and I'll be doing that.
If the president
Certainly. When I look yesterday results, it feels like your speech yesterday is more attuned to what happened at a federal level than at an Illinois level. You say you're not interested in running for president. So what's the reason of the radicalization of your speech?
Well, my speech was about the values of the two parties. I tried to make clear throughout the last year and in my reelection bid what it is that we Democrats stand for, and also to point out what the Republicans really stand for. They are a party that is run by Donald Trump. My opponent was a Donald Trump disciple, and those are values that Illinoisans don't appreciate, don't agree with. And we successfully, made our message clear and won.
But the needs were much broader than that, and they truly were. That was a national level speech. You were addressing national issues. You didn't mention your opponent once in the speech. You referred to Trump twice. You referred to MAGA a couple of times at least. I mean, this seemed to go far beyond the contours of the Great River on one side and the Great Lake on the other side.
I was expressing my values. These are my values. You know that I helped to build a Holocaust museum here. You know that I have fought against hate really for my entire life. I really believe that the Republican Party, and that especially includes the Illinois Republican Party, who nominated Darren Bailey, that they stand for the MAGA Republican ideas, Donald Trump. That party has been taken over entirely, clearly. And so I wanted to make clear what I stand for. That's all. I'm an Illinoisan through and through. I want to be the governor of Illinois for the next 4 years. And I'm excited to make sure that we're accomplishing things for the people of Illinois and expressing our values. I really think the majority of people in Illinois agree that we should be standing up against hate.
Governor, the veto session is right around the corner. The pressure from the election is off. Should people still expect to see changes to the Safety Act made in this veto session before January 1st?
Oh, there's a lot of work that's been done by the General Assembly over the last number of months in working groups, and so they're going to bring that to the veto session, and I'll be watching carefully. I've made my thoughts clear, and we'll see if we can get something done during the veto session to address the changes that we ought to be making.
Governor, what did Senator Bailey say during your call with him last night, and was he easily conceding his rights?
He said very few words. I got on the phone. He said, I said, Senator Bailey, he said, Governor, I want to congratulate you. And I said, well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. And he said, okay, then. That's the entire call.
Tell us about your call with President Biden. Did you guys discuss 2024?
No, I got a nice call from President Biden congratulating me on our victory, reaffirming his belief that we've really been imaginative and effective at using federal dollars here in Illinois to get big things done for the people of Illinois, for working families. And he talked about all that on the call. And it was a nice call, really just a congratulatory call from the president. I don't know why you are. I think I've answered.
No.
Happy to answer your next question. Yeah. What's that?
You haven't heard the question.
That's true.
Given the stakes in 2024, nationally, given your unwavering support for abortion rights, should Illinois adopt in the state constitution or move to try to adopt in the state constitution abortion protections beyond just having it enshrined?
I think everybody knows where I stand on the issue of supporting women's reproductive rights. And so anything that we can do certainly would be an advancement to protect women's rights. And
Something we should
It's certainly something that we could think about. It is obviously very difficult to get things onto the Illinois Constitution. And so that's one of the considerations, I think. But here's the thing. We are a pro-choice state, and certainly as governor for the next 4 years and with a Democratic General Assembly, I think we will successfully expand our capacity to deal with the challenges that are now facing Illinois because every state around us has become an anti-choice state. So we're going to do everything we can to protect a woman's right to choose. And I pledge to women everywhere in our state that I take it as a very personal responsibility that we should protect them and that we should do everything that we can to continue to do that.
Jim Durkin announced that he's
Sorry, it's okay, Danny. Yeah, I was looking right at you. Yeah.
You mentioned you served all people of Illinois.
Yes, ma'am.
What, if any, olive branch specifically will you extend to the Republican Party? And considering the results from last night, do you think that Illinois' Republican Party should or might start moving away from the Donald Trump platform?
Clearly, they should move away from the Donald Trump platform. The Republican Party has gone so far off the rails now that they don't represent the majority of people in the state of Illinois. In fact, they've become a super minority party representing a super minority of people in Illinois, even though they control that the super minority of Republicans control the Republican Party. So I implore them to change. I also have always reached out, literally from before I was elected the first time, to the Republicans in the General Assembly to work with them, and we've gotten a lot done. I don't know if you recall, but many of the things that I just talked about that we accomplished actually were done in a bipartisan fashion. We legalized cannabis in a bipartisan fashion. We passed the infrastructure bill in a bipartisan way. We passed my first budget in a bipartisan way. It was the Republicans who decided after 1 year that going into an election year, they wanted to stop working together. So I'm open to working with Republicans on good, rational, solid ideas for the future of the state. And yeah, compromise is a good thing. If they have good ideas, they should bring it to the table.
Governor, what motivation do Democrats with continued supermajorities and with the election outcome have to even work with Republicans? There are some who are looking at the Republican Party in Illinois and saying they've pretty much become irrelevant.
Well, that's not me. I think you have seen, I've worked with Republicans, and I look forward to, I have always had an open door. And I have asked Republicans to come see me if they want to talk about something and think we can work together on something. I've been open to that. I've never rejected that idea. I do like the idea of us having bipartisanship in the state of Illinois. Look, I'm not going to compromise my ideals and the things that I believe. But on the other hand, again, if you bring good ideas, it's something we ought to be listening to and incorporating.
Governor, what should we think about that photo of you yesterday, shaking hands alongside Chuy Garcia? Are you going to endorse anyone in the mayor's race? Might it be Mr. Garcia?
Well, you apparently didn't see the pictures of me with Cam Buckner or with Alderman Eugene Sawyer.
There were big groups.
Well, I had a group of people together. You're making more of it than it is. Look, he's the congressman from the area where I was shaking hands at the Orange Line stop, and he's a good man. I am not taking sides in the mayoral race. I am focused on the job that I have ahead of me in my second term.
Jim Durkin, would you
Mike.
like to see state lawmakers focus on abortion protections and passing an assault weapons ban during veto session next week, or just wait until you have more votes come January?
Well, again, that's going to be a question of, a roll call, of looking at what we can get, and I'd like to do it in a bipartisan fashion also, what we can get together. We'll see. I think that the fact is whether we get it done in November, we get it done in January, and early in the session, whenever that may be, we are going to work on passing an assault weapon ban and making sure that we are protecting women's reproductive rights by expanding capacity and in making the investments that are necessary here in our state to protect women.
Your take on the fact that AP called the race at 7 p.m. when there were still people downstage waiting to vote?
I have to say that I was as surprised as anybody. Look, I also saw a program the night before watching PBS. They interviewed Julie Pace, who works for AP, talking about the complex nature of the models that they use in order to make predictions and projections. And so I was fascinated watching it the night before, not expecting that our race would get called quickly. But look, they weren't wrong.
Governor Jim Durkin announced this morning that he will not seek another term as the House GOP leader. What's your reaction to that? And obviously that's someone that you're used to working with. Are you concerned that someone who's much more conservative, someone from the MAGA wing of the GOP might get that job?
I'm only concerned if someone takes the job who's unwilling to sit down and actually talk about, what we might do together. If they're unwilling to talk, if they reject the idea of bipartisanship, that would not be good for the state of Illinois.
Is Durkin a loss?
I obviously got to know the minority leader in my first year in office when we worked together on so many issues and again passed a bipartisan budget together. And so, look, I think someone who has served as many years as he has admirably, honorably, is someone that, is probably a loss for the Republicans because he's decided not to run for leader again. And so, I look forward to whoever the new minority leader is sitting at the table and getting things done with them. I just remind you that everybody at that table has now changed since I've been in office. And so, we've worked as best we could together on with the folks on the other side of the aisle. But we've gotten a whole lot done.
One more time on that.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure, Mary Ann, that I'm catching. Yeah, Ben.
Governor, there's so many big issues in this election. Is there one you feel put Democrats over the top last night?
Well, I think there were clearly two very important issues that stood out that helped Democrats. One is on the economy. I mean, we not only did we raise wages across the state by raising the minimum wage and create jobs, of course, but we also passed a significant tax cut of $1.8 billion in gas, grocery, property, and income tax relief. And, of course, we balanced the budget that made that possible. So all of that, I think, is something that was on the minds of people when they went in to vote. The other, of course, is I think there were an awful lot of people, men and women, who cared deeply about women's reproductive rights. And I think that mattered to them when they went into the polls.
Do you want to see some of those tax cuts made permanent now next year?
I would love to work on continuing to balance the budget and run surpluses so that we can look at permanent tax relief. This gentleman in the way back, yeah.
Thank you. Suffice to say, it wasn't a big defeat of the Republican Party last night. They did well. In a lot of places, it was kind of a draw. What advice would you give to national Democrats to have the success that you're having in other elections nationwide?
Well, Republicans lost resoundingly in Illinois, but you're asking about the federal races. What advice would I give to Republicans? To Democrats, okay. Yeah, I've got a lot of advice for Republicans. Look, I think Democrats did extraordinarily well and have delivered for the American people, and that's one of the reasons why in a red wave year, and we know what the history is in the first midterm election after a new president is elected, and yet defying odds, Democrats held so many seats, and just look at the seats in Congress here in Illinois. We swept. And in so many races across the nation, there was a discussion that the Republicans were going to pick up 50 seats in the House. That's clearly not happening. There was a discussion that Republicans might get 54 seats in the Senate. That's clearly not happening. So I think Democrats are doing the right things, delivering, again, for working families. That's what we're doing in Illinois. That's why we've succeeded. I just point out that we expanded margins in the collar counties. In the one sort of Republican collar county, McHenry County, we diminished the margin of loss there significantly. We won counties in Illinois that I had not won before, even though I won a historic 16 counties last time. But we won Kendall County, we won DeKalb County, we won in places that we hadn't before. And that's all because, we won the Supreme Court races. I want to point that out too. We won more seats in the state house. And that's all because Democrats delivered. We delivered on so many things. I talked about them this morning, and we're continuing to do that. Republicans are, complaining, criticizing, and they have no solutions for anything. And so, I think they should look at their own conduct and think about actually coming to the table to get things done with us.
Governor, do you think because some of the Trump-endorsed candidates either lost or didn't win as big as they were expecting, that this is kind of somewhat of a national repudiation of Trump is? And do you think that'll have any impact on whether he watches a presidential?
I don't know about the latter part of your question, but clearly a repudiation of Trump candidates took place last night. You can look at some of the major Senate races, major governor's races, and Republicans who gladly had Donald Trump come into their state and campaign for them lost. Just look at my opponent.
Governor, could you just clarify what your administration and IDPH might be doing regarding COVID vaccines in school? Because that, was raised by Senator Bailey at a big event on Monday. And secondly, could you just talk about, if there's anything, looking back at the last 4 years, are there any things you would have done differently? Any things you've learned?
Well, on the former question, I'd just say, they meet on a regular basis to look at vaccines and, what requirements there ought to be. There are no policies or plans to expand to include a COVID-19 vaccine in those requirements. And then, sorry, the second part of your question was? What might I have done differently? Yeah. Well, listen, I think everybody can look back and think, could I have done something better along the way? And I've certainly answered that question with regard to the emergency that we dealt with in COVID-19 that we're continuing to wind down. But look, I don't know that I can tell you that there are things that I regret exactly, but I can tell you that I wish that we had had more of an opportunity to work in a bipartisan fashion. I wish that, and I know that other Democrats feel, as I do, that there should be opportunities to do that. Illinois used to be a state where that took place very often. And I've tried very hard. In my first year before COVID hit, I had Republicans over to the governor's mansion every week, and with Democrats, and we had dinners, we had cocktail parties. We spent time talking about things in personal way as well as on policy, and I wish that we had had more opportunity to do that during the last 4 years, because I think we could have gotten more done. And I wish that Republicans hadn't chosen to become very partisan, shortly after my first year in office. And I think we can get back to a point where we are talking to one another. Again, it'll depend upon leadership and others in the party, in the Republican Party.
Governor, you said that
yes.
You intend to serve out the 4 years of your second term.
Mm-hmm.
Will you commit to finishing your second term?
I commit to you that I'm, planning to be the governor for the next 4 years. We have too many things that we need to accomplish for the state. I think we all know, what that list is, or at least you all have a pretty good idea what that list is, and we're going to continue to do it. And again, principle among them is we've got to stop being irresponsible about our fiscal situation in the state like my predecessor was, and like was proposed by my opponent during this latest campaign, and actually focus on solving the real fiscal challenges of Illinois. I know that sometimes sounds boring to people when you talk about budgets, paying debt, dealing with those fiscal challenges. It's not as exciting as, some other things, but I think it's vitally important that all of us focus on that in both parties. And I think that's something in a bipartisan way we should continue to work on.
So there's no group behind the scene, because commit to you planning to be governor will be dissected. It's not like the definition.
I don't know what, yeah.
So there's
there's
nobody behind the scenes of your campaign team that
No, there was some story that I think appeared, and I think you tweeted it, about I guess Reuters put it out, saying there were some number of people on the national level who were talking to staff. That's absolutely untrue. I have not talked to any staff outside of my own staff, and so no, there's no, like I said, there's no plan to do anything other than be governor for the next 4 years.
The condition of migrants and the fact that Governor Abbott won with almost the same numbers you did yesterday, you think it's a talking point that's going to have you confronting for the next 4 years?
I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that question to compare, why he won by the same, number. I didn't even see that. So I'm not sure how to answer that question, to be honest with you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. And while you're at it, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.